morning, everyone. I really commend everyone for coming here this morning despite our weather and traffic. So I really want to show my appreciation for you being here. Thank you. With that said, I mentioned earlier that my company, we specialize in making your company look good online, and we are a one-stop solution. So we do your website, your social media, email marketing, CRMs. We're a one-stop shop. Most of our clients only wants to deal with one company for these services. And some of the things that we do in my company is that we put on workshops like this. Workshops like this will serve to educate you and inform you about your website. So if you notice, you have free brochures here. One is what you're going to be working from today. The second one is the listing of services that we offer. And the last one is that we do workshops. We also teach clients or persons, individuals, how to create their own website. And this one is actually going to be in Fort Lauderdale. It's this Saturday. So if you know anyone that could benefit from this, you can take a picture and send it to them, right? And the beauty of this workshop is that they actually get to create a website in one day. All right, so why are we here today? We're here to discover how secure is your website. And I'm going to go through a 10-point checklist. It's interactive. I'm going to be speaking for about 10 minutes. So if you have any questions, just let me know. All right. The very first, so how secure is a website? And what you want to do if you have a pen while we go through this thing, the very first one we're looking at here is SSL. Do you have HTTPS or SSL enabled? And when we cover it, if you have it, you give yourself 1 right here as a score. If you don't have it, or if you don't know, you give yourself 0. How many of you know what SSL is? I see 2 hands. And it's very important that you know what SSL is, because SSL stands for it's encryption, it's security encryption. What that means is that any transaction that happens on a website is encrypted. That means it's secure. The way that you know that a website is secure, or if your website is secure, is when you go to the browser right here. When you go to the browser, it says HTTPS before the domain name. As of 2 years ago, many companies or individuals felt that they didn't need it because their website did not accept any logins, or it was not like a bank website. With that said, as of now, it is imperative that you have this for a couple of reasons. The first one being, if you have an updated browser like Chrome or Firefox, when you go to a website, if it doesn't have HTTPS, there's a huge question mark next to where this should be, or exclamation mark saying that this website is not secure. So if you have persons going to your website, potential client goes to your website and they see that, what would they do? They would run and run quickly. So that's the first thing. This needs to be enabled. Additionally, add an insult to injury, if you're going to purchase anything from any website that doesn't have this, just run. The same thing. If you're trying to sell something online, right, and this is not there, that means that anyone can essentially capture someone's credit card that's been entered in your website. And if you're not convinced enough, the other reason that you want to have this is for SEO reasons. SEO stands for search engine optimization. It's just a long fancy term for Google and other search engines ranking your website on your search engine. And persons pay quite a bit of money to us and other firms for SEO. With that said, if your website doesn't have HTTPS, Google ranks your website lower, right? And again, the way you get HTTPS installed, you have to buy what is called a security certificate. Companies like mine can assist you with that, or whoever you have developing your website. So if you don't do anything before you leave here today, make sure that you engage your developer into buying an SSL certificate and having this on your website. Does anyone have any questions about HTTPS or that type of security?
What does that have to do with SEO?
So your whole idea for SEO is for Google to rank you higher.
But if you have an SSL to your site, it's going to rank you higher?
Correct. They will rank you lower if you don't have it.
But what if you're not accepting payments?
It doesn't matter.
You still want to have the SSL?
Correct. As of now, yes. 2 years ago, not really.
Okay.
So that's something that Google started 2 years ago. They started ranking websites that's not SSL enabled lower. They started ranking websites that's not mobile friendly lower as well. Right? And again, if you go to any regular browser, website doesn't have SSL, you get a big like a warning saying this website is not secure. So you want your clients to have that peace of mind as well when they go to your website. So as of right now, SSL, security certification, HTTPS, is not optional. It's not a want, it's a need.
But your hosting company will provide that.
You have to purchase it.
With your hosting company.
You can, most of them have it, right? So like us, we have it, we're a hosting company. If they don't have it, you can buy it from somewhere else and have them install it. But because it's a need, most hosting companies have SSL, and the price varies. So that's that. And if you buy it, you might have to also pay them to install it for you. Okay. The next thing is your hosting safe and secure? So what hosting is essentially where your website sits on the internet. And I can tell you that if you're paying less than $50 a month for hosting of your website is not secure. So what I mean by that is that there's hosting plans that start as low as like $5, $10. So your website is created and it sits in a space like this, right? So let's say each share represents a website. They're all sharing the same space, right? For $10 a month or less than $50 a month, that's what you typically get. That's what you typically get. And what it looks like is that if this website gets hacked, because you're sharing the same space, your website will also get hacked. That makes sense? And once your website gets hacked, your website can be shut down by that same hosting provider, right? So again, it depends on how much your website means to you, right? And if you invest at least $2,000 or more for a website, you actually want to make sure, or whatever, if you invest your time into it, you have to at least ensure that this space, that part is secure. So after this, you might want to have a conversation with your hosting company about how secure this is, right? There's an additional thing that they can do, but most of them don't. They can put your website in this own little cage. It's called a jail environment. So even if you're here, they just encapsulate you by yourself. So even if this person's website gets hacked, yours will get hacked. But if you're paying them about $10 a month, they're probably not doing that. Okay? So that's something you want to find out. Is your hosting safe and secure?
Now, like GoDaddy, where you buy your domain from, don't they do hosting as well? Aren't they secure? They're like $1 billion company.
If you're paying them less than $50 a month, no. They'll sell you that. They can put you on a dedicated platform, which will cost you more than $50. So you have to pay extra for that added security. That makes sense. So if your website is hosted on GoDaddy, you are responsible for your own security. Right? So you can buy SSL that adds to it. You can put your website on a dedicated server that adds to it, but that adds to the cost. And you can also have a developer, we'll get into that as well, make sure the website is locked down, but that's the next step. But as a quick FYI, if you're paying less than $50 a month, you're in one of those setups. The next one is all your software up to date. That is very, very, very crucial. What that means is that, how many of you have what is called like WordPress websites? Nobody has a WordPress website?
I do.
So WordPress and some of these other platforms, and even the hosted providers, they update the servers, They update the CMS like WordPress. WordPress is what you use to create a website. These are always been up to date. However, if your individual components in there are not up to date, then that can pose as a security vulnerability. Components such as plugins and modules. So it's similar to your computer, where your antivirus is not kept up to date, right? So your antivirus function is to keep your computer secure. If it's not getting up to date, then a new virus comes out, it can affect your computer. With your website, you have an added risk, where for your computer, all you need to ensure that the antivirus is up to date. With your website, every component in that website has to be kept up to date to ensure it's secure. So from your hosting providers platform, they're good about that, because if that stuff is not up to date, then every website would be in jeopardy, right? However, on your individual website level, every component, your WordPress has to be up to date, every module in there has to be up to date, because if you have outdated software on your website, that poses a serious risk. Does anybody have a question about that?
Does that include like widgets and stuff? Because widgets
Correct.
go on to the website through WordPress. You have to like create a link and that. So the Snap widget has to be up to date as well as WordPress, as well as the hosting.
Right. If we get into specific, it's not widgets but plugins. They're called plugins. Plugins.
Okay.
So widgets are different than plugins.
Ah.
Okay, so you're referring to plugins. These have to be up to date.
Okay.
However, before you update any of these things, you need to back up your website.
Right.
And if you're going to install any plugin or module on your website, and it says it has not been updated in like 2 years, you probably don't want to install it. So you want to install components on your website that is regularly being updated. Okay, and one of the primary reasons that software is kept up to date is for security reasons, not just for enhancements, but for security reasons. So if you're not sure if all your software is up to date, you can give yourself a 0. If you're sure, then give it a 1. Something else that's crucial, I realize I have to make this a little bit bigger, is after your website is launched, your website is sitting out there, and you might be under a misconception that only the items in the menu are being exposed. However, if your website was developed and you have test pages out there, even if it's not in the menu as a clickable item, it could be exposed. So with this command right here, if you go to Google and type in the word site, and your domain name, you'll be able to see every page, every component of your website that's been exposed to the internet.
That's cool.
And when you do that, guess what? You go there and say, okay, well, this shouldn't be there. So let's say a developer happened to have a username and password typed in the code, and that's exposed.
What is it again? I can't read.
Is the word site, S-I-T-E, and the URL.
Perfect.
I shouldn't do this bigger. And that shows you every page on your website that's being seen. And if this doesn't show you pages, that means that your website is not properly indexed on the search engines, and that's a different topic for another time. And when you're doing it, you need to enter, because like back 3 years ago, it was important to have www in front of your domain. A lot of times your website, depending on how you set it up, might not have it. It might just have HTTP or HTTPS / your domain name. So however your domain name appears in that URL, that's how you need to put it in that search box. So site : and however your domain name appears will show you everything that's being exposed to the internet from your website. All right, and
is that only in Google, or is that in like any search engine?
I believe that's a Google. I haven't tried it in Bing. That's a Google feature. All right, and the next one is, so ensure that if you're not sure, if you have test pages exposed, you can give yourself a 0. If you're sure you don't have any, you can give yourself a 1. The next one is your website being monitored. So most search engines or most hosting providers might tell you that your website is 99.9% uptime, and you can take their word for it, or you can keep your eye on it yourself.
That's awesome.
So you have to, yeah, you have to ensure.
And actually, that's cool because there's I just did the site. I did my website, and then all my blogs popped up individually.
Great. It just shows you what you have out there. So with this, you need to monitor your website. Right? And there's some free tools to do that. I believe Uptime is one of them. What that is that you go in there, you put in your URL, and you essentially monitor your website in case your hosting shuts down for some reason. And you'll get an email notification letting you know that your website is down. All right, so you want to ensure that your website is being monitored. If your website is not monitored, you probably give yourself a 0. And apart from the actual hosting going down, a lot of these websites are what is called database-driven websites. What that means is that it has a database attached. Most of the content is stored in a database. So if your database goes down, you want to have a feature that monitors that as well. Because if your database goes down, your website won't be functional. And if you have a WordPress website, you do have a database backend. The next thing you want to ensure is login attempts limited. What that means is that many websites, like WordPress websites or any website that has what is called a backend where you have to log in to access it and make changes, what some hackers do is that they run what is called an attack where they make multiple attempts to log into your website. So for example, most of us or each one of you have logged in, trying to log into like a bank account online or certain services, and after 3 attempts, what does it do? It locks you out. So if your website has a feature like that where you have to log in to make changes, you have to ensure that this happens after 3 failed attempts. I mean, someone with unauthorized access might be trying to get into your website. All right, so to ensure that is limited. Okay, and again, if you're sure about this, you give yourself a 1. If not, you give yourself a 0. The next one is your login page is not exposed. What that means is that a lot of persons, like as I said, use what is called WordPress or other what is called CMS to create their websites. And guess what? Everybody by default who has a WordPress website or one of these websites, the way you try to get in is that you put a domain name /wp-admin or wp-login. So if everyone that's familiar with WordPress knows that, guess what they're gonna do? They're gonna go to your website and attempt to do that, right? And there's also certain tools that someone can use to see who your users are. So if I already know your default access, all I have to do is just try multiple times to guess, right, how to log in. So you need to ensure that your WordPress or whatever CMS you're using, that default setup is not exposed. And there's ways to change it from wp-admin to something else. All right? So if this is like this, you want to give yourself a 0. If not, and give yourself a 1. If it's set up properly, and give yourself a 1. The next thing is your list of users is like exposed. And again, if you're using one of these regular CMSs, by default, the list of users is exposed. I can actually run a scan and show you what your WordPress login is or whatever CMS you're using. So you need to have your developer put an added measure in there to make sure that that list is not exposed to the outside world. So if I know where to log in, I can figure out what your username is, right? What's the next step? I'm just gonna get your password. So you have to ensure that these steps are taken to minimize that risk. The next thing is to secure your password. So I know your URL, I know your username, the next step is to get your password. And if your password is just your child name and your birth date, or something right, or your dog's name, right, or just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that is not a secure password. Right, so you have to ensure not just for your website, but any service that you have to log into that your password is secure, and use some things that you get creative, uppercase, lowercase, numbers, right, and the characters in there to create a secure password. And if you, another recommendation also is to update your password every 90 days, all right? And I do it, but it's not recommended. Try not to use the same password for multiple things, right? You know, we have so many passwords to remember, but try not to do that. Especially stuff like your bank account or things that's really, if someone wants to get access to it, try to make sure that at least that password is unique for these services, okay? The last thing, that if you don't have any of these things that in the previous 9 checklist items, right? If you failed in any one of those, if you pass number 10, at least you're a little bit safe. What that means is that when your website is launched, you want to have a safe, secure backup of it. And when you're backing up your website, do not back it up on your server where your website is being hosted. Because if your host goes down, then you lose your backup as well. You have to back up your website off-site. You have to back it up on your computer or on another server. So if your website happens to get hacked, then at least you have a backup that can be restored. And you also have to create a backup every time you do major changes on your website. Changes that will take a while to get back up. And you don't necessarily trust your hosting provider for that backup, because most of them only back up your website up to 30 days. Right? So if something happens to your website prior to past 30 days, you won't have that backup. Okay? So, and that's it for my presentation. So you just want to go